Path of Exile 2, an isometric dark fantasy Diablo-like build crafting loot grinder with elements of stock market manipulation, a RPG. What does any of this mean? No clue really. I've never played Diablo and I don't play ARPGs in general, so all I really know about this game is that big hammer plus smash equals dopamine. But what is this game really? Well, like I said in the beginning, it is a dark fantasy action roleplay game where you start out butt naked, killing zombies, gathering loot and experience to outkit your character, so that eventually you can face off against God.
I am a god.
Or something like that. I'm not really sure. Didn't pay too much attention to the story. Was too busy admiring the scenery.
You will join them!
And the fun is over. Or is it?
Can you resist the urge to look?
Anyways, in all seriousness, I find this to be an absolutely amazing game. Like I said, I've never played a game like this before. Well, not really at the very least. Which is why I was so surprised when I got absolutely addicted to it. I mean, I thought this would just be a short in and out experience, just play through the campaign, get bored, maybe come back in a few years, something along those lines. But I didn't expect it to be something that I would need an intervention for to convince me to stop playing. No, seriously, I need help. This is the combined playtime of 5 months. So, what is it about this game that makes it so addicting and why I love playing it so much? Well, there are a lot of things that contribute to this, starting with the art style, which if you couldn't tell is absolutely amazing. It's dark, it's vibrant, it's unique, and best of all, it is absolutely unapologetic in its design. I like the way the game looks and the way the world feels. Going through the campaign for the first time was a genuinely satisfying experience, mostly because of the way the world was designed and because of the plethora of interesting monstrosities I got to crush with my great hammer. The story, well, all I can say about the story is that it is there. For sure it is there. But what it's about and what is happening in the world, all I can say I gathered from it is that you need to use a big fucking hammer and smash hordes of enemies. That's about it. Next come the best bits, the gameplay. The gameplay is responsive, your punches feel like they have weight behind them, which makes smashing your enemies very satisfying. As far as the combat goes, combat is very engaging, and you are encouraged to pay attention to what is happening around you. Boss battles range from you just being able to stand in place hitting, to being quite the challenge to deal with. But this is only for the campaign. Later on, you'll just be pressing 1 or 2 buttons to delete everything off the screen, and getting a dopamine rush whenever you see big numbers get bigger. And this brings me to the absolute best part of the game, the character customization. And I'm not talking about the cosmetics, I'm talking about the way you can design a character to play the game with. You see, with this game, there is no correct way to build a character. You will of course have meta builds, which are gonna be the best builds you can make, sure, but the game has so many resources for you to use and experiment with that you can create any number of different ways to slaughter your enemies. To start the game, you have to choose a character from 6 available options, only one of which is objectively the correct choice. Then you go through the campaign, leveling up and unlocking different skills, as well as getting gear that will suit your character best. But here's the thing, there is no gear that suits your character best, and there is no template for you to follow. You get the freedom to pick and choose where to spend your points, which gear to wear, and what skills to use. For me, Warrior is a very obvious choice of character, as I love cracking skulls with massive melee weapons. The crunchy feeling I get whenever I slam dunk into the enemy is addicting to say the very least. And this sensation is at its finest when I'm using my 2-handed hammer. But you know what's even better than using 1 massive hammer? Using 2 massive hammers. Because twice the hammer power equals twice the fun. However, Warrior has one major issue in this game. And that is that big burly heavy armor gives you less protection than scanty clothing. Why? Well, because GGG obviously hates melee enjoyers and prefers you play the female caster alternative. And I mean, if I spent as much time developing these jiggle physics, I would certainly want you to experience them as well. But back to the point, armor is basically paper in this game, and life is very limited. So unless that is all you're going to be investing in, they are going to make for a poor choice of defense. One of the main ways you get life in this game is by investing points into your strength. As for every point in strength, you get 2 points of life. Now, unfortunately in our case, we can have the ability to have twice the hammer power and twice the fun without receiving some sort of punishment in return. In this case, I am using Giant's Blood to be able to dual wield my two-handed weapons, but in exchange I will have an increase in attribute requirements for said weapons, and every point of strength will only give us 1 life instead of 2. This punishment, in combination with the fact that warrior builds are already very squishy, will lead to you pretty much getting one-shot by pretty much anything really. So just like with every form of punishment in life, there is only one thing to say to this. Punish me hard. Sorry, wrong script. Anyways, as I was saying, the only sensible thing to do in this situation is to find a way to circumvent this punishment. And luckily, I think I have found just the way to do so, while also fixing the warrior squishy problem. But first, we have to solve a couple of issues. The first of which being that we are unfortunately too stupid to realize that scanty women clothing provides a much better source of protection to us than wearing a full suit of armor.
I'm a simple man, but I can improve.
To convince ourselves that scanty clothing is the way to go, we will need to wear this unique helmet called the Vertex Mask, which will let us equip items regardless of their attribute requirements. So that way, instead of having this filthy armor, we will be able to use this much better form of defense called Energy Shield. Then we will have to solve the issue of having reduced life gain from strength, but instead of finding a way to circumvent this and reduce the penalty to my reduced life, I have decided to double down and say I don't even want to get any life from strength. If I use this Heroic Tragedy Timeless Jewel, we will be able to turn all of our strength into percentage energy shield increase. So that way we can make our women's clothing even more effective. Next we have an issue of actually keeping our energy shield up, unlike other things, because you see energy shield is a resource that will take damage instead of your health, but it will not regenerate if you are constantly taking damage, which as a melee character, yeah, you're pretty much always going to be taking damage. So to fix this issue, we will want to use another mechanic in the game called Life Leech, which will let us leech life from a percentage of physical damage we deal. Combine this with yet another unique item called Soul Quench Long Belt, which turns all of our excess life leech into energy shield, and by taking this note here in our passive tree, Fast Metabolism, we have effectively made a new mechanic to leech energy shield. Pretty cool. Lastly, just fill in the rest of the passive nodes with more melee damage, increases to strength, and none of that yucky armor, but rather that juicy energy shield increase. And your build is pretty much complete. So by using the best way to mitigate damage in the game, we are a lot more durable than a regular warrior build that uses just standard armor, and we have mitigated the penalty from Giant's Blood so that we can now have twice the hammer power without any of the penalties. Meaning that we no longer have to be afraid of those big, massive hits that would in most cases just see us instantly dead, but instead we can tank it and say, my turn. Now, unfortunately, one thing I have noticed while slam dunking into hordes of enemies was the lack of clear speed and a severe lack of for our landings. You see, it isn't enough for me that when we land, we kill everything beneath us. No. When I land, I want the entire world to shake. I want all the enemies on the map to feel my presence. I want to not just crunch enemies beneath me, but shatter all those I can see on the entire screen. That is why I have decided to trade some of my survivability and unequip my lovely pair of slippers for this pair of trample toe trimmed graves, which makes it so that you do 30% of overkill damage to enemies around the ones you've overkilled, giving us that extra bit of crunch I was looking for and absolutely demolishing everything on the goddamn screen. Is this build good? I absolutely doubt it. But finding the items, theory crafting, and overall research I have done to make this build work is what I love about this game, and what keeps me playing for way longer than I should be. Just the absolute freedom to pick and choose your own playstyle, as well as the ability to experiment with a potentially limitless number of skill and gear combinations. If you have the time, the patience, or desire, I would definitely recommend you play this game, as it is extremely satisfying. And if you are going to play it, I would just advise two things. One is to not listen to people saying that solo self-found is the only true way to experience this game, as I did in the beginning, and all I can say, it was not fun. Trading is a very crucial part of this game, as it is pretty much essential, and the game is designed around it. You're very often going to find things you don't need or craft items you might not want, but will still be able to trade them in for a currency, which you can then use to either buy the items you want or try to craft them yourself. And second, follow build guides if you want and use what people are saying are the most optimal builds to play the game with, but I would suggest you also experiment and figure things out for yourself. You might fail and you might make spectacularly dogshit builds, as I have, but that is for me where the fun of this game lies. Experimenting with items, bonuses, and so on until you find something that actually does work. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this one, a little bit of a break from Warhammer, and if you guys do end up liking it, we might do more in the future. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
Swords, all fights as one.